How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Music Production Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Funk, and on this show, we talk about all things making music, the creative process, actual techniques, you name it, philosophy, creativity. It's try to cover it all and do interesting things here. And today's episode is an interesting part of that whole process. We're going to talk about fighting off NAMM gear lust. Now, I'm recording this episode the night before the NAMM extravaganza begins in Los Angeles. NAMM is the National Association of Music Merchants, and they've been around since 1901, which I just learned, which I find incredibly crazy. I wonder what they were doing for all that time. It's amazing. It's been around for so long, but this is the big event of the year where all these different companies that make the gear we love and long for, these companies get together and showcase the new things that are coming out. And it's very exciting. You're going to hear a lot of really cool things coming out over the next few days. And no doubt something is going to catch your eye and make you want to buy it. And I want to try to help you with that a little bit because I go through this every year and I always want to buy new gear. It's like, the most exciting thing in a lot of ways to get a new toy to play with. There's all this possibility, these things you can now do. And it feels almost as if like you'll finally be able to make that big hit, now that I have this new piece of gear. And it's very easy to buy into this idea that maybe just like a couple $100 will buy you the ability to make your artistic vision come true. And if we're thinking about it that way, it seems very cheap. So it's easy to justify these purchases. But today I want to talk about some ways we can avoid that, because if you are like me, you've bought a million different things and found out that it did not lead to that major revolution you were hoping for. Usually they might add something to our workflow, but a lot of times they don't. And I'm surrounded by a lot of gear myself right now, some of which is collecting dust and some of it which could sure use some attention. And it's at no fault of the gear. It's just the time to get to it, learn it. There's new things coming out. There's distractions, whatever it is. We don't always get to the things we have. So why do we want to buy new things? We're always attracted to the shiny new thing. So, even if you are listening to this on, which would be Thursday when you would get this, is the first day in NAMM 2019, already before the show's even started, there's been a lot of really exciting announcements. The Akai Force that got kind of leaked a couple weeks ago, which is basically like this standalone Ableton push looking thing that has a very similar workflow, and it promises to kind of integrate with your computer or without your computer. It looks awesome. It looks like a lot of fun. I think they came with a new MPC as well. Korg came out with the Volca Modular and Volca drums, and those look awesome. And I'm sure they are. They look like a ton of fun. And I'm a fan of the Volcas too. I have the Volca FM, and I really do like that. That does not gather as much dust as some of the other things, I must say. But this modular system is incredible looking. The drums look awesome. They got great sounds and great sequencing capabilities. Korg has also come out with the Monologue XD, which also looks like another really cool piece of gear. The Monologue is awesome, if you ask me. What else? Maybe was it the Mini Log? Maybe. Whatever it is. It's a cool new synth Korg is coming out with. Teenage Engineering's got the Poor Man's Modular, and they just released the OPZ. They're killing it, as they always do. If you're a Bitwig user, there's a new version of that coming out. There's just so much you can get into even before the show starts. So it almost feels like inevitable that you're going to be is victimized, the right word, and and manipulated into buying something. It's real hard to twist our arms, right? Very easy to convince us to buy some new stuff. But what I want to just do is maybe give you some defenses against these new products that are coming out. First of all, be real with yourself. Is it really going to change everything for you? I would like to bet it probably won't. It might give you a little burst of inspiration, but in reality, it's once that thrill of the new is over, it's just another piece of gear, and you already have a ton of stuff. Even if you just have a phone in your pocket or a laptop, you've got a ton of stuff. Have you explored that well enough yet? Look inside your DAW, inside of, for instance, as you know, I love Ableton Live. Have you really gone deep in everything? Live 10 came out about a year ago. Have you mastered Wavetable yet? The Wavetable synthesizer that came out with Live 10. I mean, this thing goes so deep. I was playing around with it a lot recently when I made my Plux Ableton Live pack. And it just blows my mind how many different wavetables there are, how many possibilities there are, how much modulation you can do. It's unending, really. Playing around with operator too. I mean, this is a synth that goes so deep. Have you really explored it? Have you played around with all the different effects that are inside the software? It's probable you have not milked it for everything it's worth. Take a look at some of the gear around you that maybe you've purchased. Have you really learned it inside and out? Have you explored all of the functions? And here's the real test for you. Have you made any music with it yet? That's what we're here to do, is it not? To make music? Have you taken these pieces of gear that you've bought, or these DAWs you have, or these plugins you've downloaded? Have you made new music with it yet? Have you put yourself to the test and actually used the tools for what they're designed to be used for? I'm being honest when I say no, I have not. I've not explored all of this stuff to its fullest capabilities yet. And that's what I'm going to try to make one of my goals during this long weekend of new gear coming out. And if I'm being honest with you, I'm going to be following the news. I'm going to be seeing like all the updates, Synthopia, CDM are going to be showing me all the cool stuff coming out, and it will be exciting. But what I'm going to try to do is to go back a little bit into some of the gear that I haven't fully explored, some of the capabilities I haven't tried out, some of the features, and see what I can come up with. So maybe this could be a good challenge for us all. Before you buy something new, make some music with the last thing you bought. Try out a new feature. Try experimenting with it, doing something new. Look to some of the free stuff if you really have the urge to get something new. And I have something for you. Just yesterday, I released a new pack, which I called the Slim Fatty Plux, when in reality, I was playing my Sub Fatty. I don't know why I called it Slim Fatty, just a slip of the mind, a different older Moog synthesizer, which I used to have, but I did sell in order to get the Sub Fatty. But I made this small collection of Ableton Live Plux sounds that's really reminiscent of the larger Plux pack that I'm selling right now at my store, or is also available to the Afro DJ Mag Music Production Club. You can get it there for the January 2019 download. But not to sell you anything, that would be kind of hypocritical. But what you can do is download these new sounds, maybe make some songs with these. I'm going to let you just hear a little bit. And part of the point I want to make too is I've had the Sub Fatty for quite some time now, a few years, and still there's so much to discover in it. And one of the things that I was playing around with this time was resampling it, running it through some effects, and putting into live sampler instrument and then building instrument racks with it. And if you want to see the process, I did a live stream of this. This would be yesterday, but you can find it. It's going to be on the webpage where you can download the pack itself. I'm going to have all that in the show notes, so you can just click on it. But it's, I don't know, it was about 20, 30 minutes or so of just going through the process of programming a sound on the Moog, running it through some effects, re-recording it, resampling it into another track in live, and then chopping the samples up, putting into the sampler, and, you know, doing all that stuff to make these sounds. And I will let you just hear these three, and maybe this will inspire you to either download the pack and use these to make some music, or to even go back to your own gear and see what you got, you know, really explore it, you know, test it, put it to its limit, try out the features you haven't tried out yet. So this is one of the three I made, and these are all Plux sound. They're meant to be these short, fast decaying sounds. So one I just called Chord Dancer, and it's got an arpeggiator set to the chord setting. So I can just hold down a couple notes and get these moving chords. just playing around right now live as I record this. So never mind the performance. But what I like about that particular sound is I ran it through some VSTs that I hadn't really spent a lot of time using. One of them was called Echo Melt, which is made by Psychic Modulation, and I love it, but it gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. And I spent some good money on it, and I value it very much, but I just don't always go to it. So this is a nice little exercise in, hey, remember that cool plugin I bought? Let's try it out. Hey, remember that cool synthesizer I have that's currently collecting a little dust? Let's pull that out too and put the two together. So you might combine things a little bit. Here's another sound that I made. I like this one. I think it's my favorite one. That's not it. Here it is right here. That's the first one. I put the arpeggiator on this one too. You can hear a nice filter LFO moving around. Just slowly changing the filter. It's closing right now. There you go. We can turn off that arps just so you can hear it on its own. Makes a cool bass sound, but it's also nice in the higher notes. Nice, got a little delay on there, the reverb, and hey, even Live's reverb, there's some cool features that I think people overlook a lot, myself included, and one of those is the freeze function. So I've got a knob on this particular instrument rack where if you turn the reverb time all the way up, it engages the freeze function, which the freeze is really just taking the instant of reverb and replaying it like forever. It will actually last forever, or at least I'm told. I haven't tried forever yet, but it lasts as long as I can stand it. So if I just play like some notes, I turn up my reverb a little bit, I'm adding time, and I'm gonna get to the freeze, and there we have it. It's just gonna go forever. And what's nice about this now is you could do all kinds of stuff after it. I could throw a filter on here, filter that down, maybe put an LFO on it, give it something like that's going to move. I mean, you could have a really good time doing like cool rhythmic stuff with that on its own, putting more effects on it afterwards, you name it. And that's just the Ableton stock reverb that comes with every version of Live. And here's the last one. I also put the arpeggiator on this one. I'm a little arpeggiator happy, I guess. But if we turn that off, you can hear it. Put a little delay on that. I've been pretty excited about these pluck sounds lately just because I use them a lot. They're really nice for melodies, but they're also really nice for rhythmic stuff. They come up time and time again when I'm making music, so I wanted a whole collection, which is why the big pack came in, and which is also why I made the smaller pack, just so everyone can have them and experience them a little bit. And plus, I hadn't tried the sub-fatty for making some of these sounds, so I wanted to work that in too. And I'm also fighting that gear lust that NAMM is bringing upon us. So you can download all of those sounds for free. They work with Ableton Live 10. Sorry, Live 9 users, but I made that in 10, and that's what I got. But you can use it with standard or suite. It's free download on my site, afrodjmac.com. Try this sort of thing out, download what I got and use them in your own projects, or go and dig out something old that you haven't used a lot. You've probably got some really cool stuff lying around, whether it's in your folders, whether it's samples you haven't used, whether it's plugins you haven't used, or it's a piece of gear. Maybe you got like an effects pedal for guitar or something. Try running synths through it, drums through it. Just experiment, have fun, and try to go into this with the mindset that you have a lot of cool stuff already. And you probably have not exploited it to its maximum benefit. And I think a lot of creativity comes from when we actually work within limitations. If we keep getting new stuff, we never really get too far with it and we have too many options. But when we limit ourselves and when we really explore something, we can go deep, we can learn it, we can pick up on new techniques, but we can do things that we wouldn't otherwise do. When you have problems, when you have limitations, that's when you have to get creative to solve those problems and get through those limitations. If you have endless options, if you keep buying new stuff, you don't have to really challenge yourself to get through those problems and limitations. So you're not really strengthening that creative part of your mind and your work. Use this as a chance. And you know what would be a nice benefit too? If you can resist buying something new here, I can almost promise you that after a little bit of time passes and the initial jolt of excitement over a new piece of gear wanes a little bit, you might not even want it anymore. Maybe something else will come out and then catch your eye again. Or maybe even better, by resisting this urge to purchase something new, you will learn that you have the power to do quite a lot with the things you already have. And that's going to be it, I'd say. So thanks a lot for listening. I hope this helps. I hope it helps me too. Who knows what the exciting things that are coming out are going to be, but I know I've got a lot of cool stuff already and a lot of stuff that I really have not done justice to yet. So that's going to be my goal over the next few days and weeks as all this new stuff comes out, is to try to make music and make sounds and instruments and downloads and whatever, tutorials, but whatever I'm going to do it with the stuff I have already. Maybe you can do the same. I hope that helps a little bit. Thanks a lot for listening to the podcast. We are rapidly approaching episode 100. I'm super psyched about that. And it's almost been 2 years since we started the podcast. The feedback has been incredible. Thank you so much for everyone that's sent an email or left a review or tweeted or shared an episode. It's really been amazing. I've gotten to talk to a lot of really cool people and learned a lot myself. And I think that knowledge is being passed on to others too. And I hope it makes you make better music. Thanks a lot for listening. I'm Brian Funk, and this is the Music Production Podcast. And have a great weekend, and be strong and fight off the NAMM gear lust. Take care.